Day 7. Today was Sunday. It was the Lord's Day. After what happened yesterday, we all needed a day off. We had harvested some apples and pears from the trees on the property. When Richie and I started prepping a few years back, we started propagating starters from our blackberry and raspberry bushes that we had at our houses. We planted some around at Steve's and on the church property and my property in Vermont as well. My favorite was the black raspberries. But all past their season now, we had to be happy with the apples and pears. The women made pies, baked some homemade breads. We had the honey we traded from the farmer for the .45 ammo. Aaron shot a wild turkey in the woods out back this morning. It smelled awesome, cooking it under the fire in the pavilion. We opened several cans of veggies and put them in a pan of water, along with some dehydrated black beans and broccoli, various seasonings, and set it on the fire. While everything was cooking, Pastor preached an awesome sermon, and we sang songs of praise and worship to God. Afterward, we all sat down and broke bread together. After we ate, the women sat on the lawn, watching the children play, and the men went up behind the parsonage and had a friendly competition, chipping golf balls into a 5-gallon pail. Aaron and Pastor both had a set of clubs at the church. Life almost seemed normal for a while. Then Greg pulled me aside to talk on our own. He asked me, "Do you hear that?" I listened and told him I did hear something. It sounded like trucks. He told me they were old World War II era trucks, that he had been watching them from the tower. He said they were coming in and out of the middle school property about a mile away. He could see part of the road from the tower and would catch a glimpse of them now and again. He said those guys were with the bastards that shot Jerry yesterday. "I'm going to get me a little payback," he said. I looked at him puzzled. He said, "They cut off our hand, we cut off their head. They kill one of ours, we kill 10 of theirs." He had formulated an elaborate plan to cut a tree down across the road to stop the convoy. Then when they were stopped, he wanted me and Richie to drop another tree that we would have already ready to go behind them, effectively trapping them on the road between the two downed trees. He assured me he could take them out one at a time with the .30-06 from a safe place in the woods, using one of Aaron's tree stands. I put my hand on his shoulder, kindly reminded him that that was not who we were. It was not our role to mete out justice. That was God's right alone. I told him I knew Jerry's death hurt him. It hurt me too. Hurt all of us. But unless my life was in direct danger, I would not engage anyone in combat. Only in the defense of myself or another innocent person would I fight. We sat in the woods on a rock and he started to cry. I cried too. I told him we could not let this turn us into the very thing we were fighting against. Once we started down that path, there would be no turning back. We would be no better than the men we killed in the barn the other day. We could not allow ourselves to become that. We prayed together for strength, for peace in our hearts. We walked back out of the woods and rejoined the group. By this time the men had dispersed. Pastor was napping in a hammock. Steve and Richie were sitting at a picnic table under the pavilion cleaning guns. I looked up on the lawn behind the parsonage on the hill. I saw Jolie sitting alone on a swing. She was having a tough time with Jerry's death. And at that moment I wanted to go find Greg, help him carry out his plan for revenge. Well, instead I went over and helped Steve and Richie clean the weapons. Aaron walked over and placed a walkie on the table and said, "I'm going hunting. I'm on channel 2. I cautioned him not to wander out past radio range and to stay away from the road. Told him about the truck activity we saw. Greg was in the tower with the 30-06. I whistled to get his attention. When he looked down at me, I put my 2 fingers up to my eyes and then pointed at Aaron, who was walking off into the field and back. Greg understood that I meant for him to follow Aaron to provide him with security support. I know Aaron liked to hunt alone, but, well, that was just too bad. We weren't losing another man, not on my watch. Besides, I knew he'd probably never even hear or see Greg following him. After a while, Pastor woke up and joined us at the table. He shared that he had a burden for an elderly member of our church family. Miss Mary Paulson was a sweet, kind old lady. She recently lost her husband. The 2 of them had been the very first members of our congregation 28 years ago, when Pastor came out to New England and started this church. Her husband was a faithful man of God, a true prayer warrior, and always Pastor's biggest supporter. He was buried at the bottom of the steps leading up to the pavilion which bore his name. It had been dedicated to him when the church had it built several years back. A plaque even hung on the wall with his picture and a dedication note. Miss Mary lived alone now, out in the woods, on a lonely dirt country road. Her husband and her built the house together with their own hands over 60 years ago. This year would have been their 65th wedding anniversary. She could not bring herself to leave that house. Her kids, grown and scattered all over the country, had certainly tried. Her oldest daughter lived in Tennessee and had tried many times to get her to join her and her family there. She told her daughter that too much of her father was in that house. Their whole lives had been in that house. They built it as newlyweds and raised 7 children there. Pastor went out to visit and check on her weekly. He chopped firewood for her, brought her to her doctor's appointments and to the grocery store. He offered to pick up her groceries for her, but she wouldn't hear of that. Said she wanted to do for herself as much as she could. Now she was up there alone, with no power and no means of communication. An 87-year-old widow with no way to contact the outside world. It was weighing heavy on Pastor's heart. Pastor told us he wanted to go retrieve her, bring her back to the church. It was 25 miles away, along mostly country lanes and dirt roads. He knew it would be dangerous, but he said he just had to go. He didn't expect any of us to take the risk with him. He told us he could leave early in the morning and be back before dark if all went well. Richie told him that he understood and that he thought Pastor should go. He also said that he was not going to let him go alone and that he would go with him. Greg and I nodded and told him we were in also. Steve and Aaron would remain behind and pull security for the camp. We would roll out early tomorrow morning. Linda and Lee processed what was left of the turkey and added it to a large pot with water and leftover veggies. Made a delicious soup for dinner for the group. Afterwards, we built a big fire in the fireplace, enjoyed fellowshipping with one another. Richie and Pastor were over in a corner at a picnic table going over the logistics for our trip tomorrow. The trail we used to get out back to connect with the old road was an old logging road that was overgrown, nothing more than a trail now. It connected to the electrical supplier's power line road that eventually led to the road to the northwest. We were pretty sure we can get the power wagon down the trail. Once on the power line, it was an easy ride to the back road. We wanted to avoid the main roads and we didn't want to dismantle the blockade we'd built in the driveway. Richie filled the power wagon with gas and checked the oil. It was just past dusk when Aaron walked back into camp with Greg, each of them carrying half a deer on their shoulders. A large doe, I estimate to be around 200 pounds. As the fire started to die back, people slowly started to go inside for the night. Pastor Greg Ritchie and I stayed out and went over every detail of our mission for tomorrow. What route to take, what weapons to bring with us, times, fallback places to meet if we got separated for some reason, etc., etc. We went over the whole plan several times. It was now getting late and we went in for the night. I told Linda about our plan for tomorrow, and I could tell she was concerned. "Be careful and get back safely," was all she said. She reminded me of a comforting promise from God's Word. How He promises He will never leave us or forsake us. We just had to trust in Him. Well, I certainly did trust God. I was also very happy that He allowed me to have the Mini 14 and plenty of ammo for it as well. We talked for a bit and fell asleep. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying this series. Please like and share the videos and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it.